Hi! So last time I showed you how you can make some simple interactions like this, where you can push things around inside of your world. They can rotate a bit, they have some friction applied, and that's pretty much all there is to them. Now today I wanted to go one step further and let us shoot projectiles at these box objects to try and destroy them. So first of all we are going to need a projectile. Let's create one as a new 2D scene. Projectile. And let's see, what type do we want this to be? I would say an area 2D. Let's see, an area 2D again is of course going to need some stuff. Collision shape 2D and another shape. Yeah, for now let's make it a rectangle like everything else. Keep it simple. Add a sprite. Of course put the Godot logo in, because are there any other sprites? Make it smaller, let's see, is that... no, let's actually go with 0.33. 0.33. And that is roughly the size of the hitbox. Yeah, sounds good. Save this. Now, the projectile should have, let's see, attach script. It should have a velocity. Var velocity equals, and I'd say we can save this as a vector 2. So simply enough, we just create a new variable, put a vector 2 in there, and by default, I guess vector 2.0 is fine. But we can override that later and change it so it actually is going to move somewhere. We don't actually need any of that, but we can do function, let's go physics process. Process would be fine as well. And say position plus equals velocity. And that should already be fine, since position is a vector 2 and velocity is a vector 2. We can just say position plus equals velocity, which is of course the same as writing position equals position plus velocity. Just a short form. So now that this can move, let's see, we are gonna want the player to be able to fire it, and we might want a speed to be predefined. Let's just say constant speed equals 300. I don't know. We'll see later if the number is any good. I guess we should scale the velocity times speed in here. That way we can just have a normalized velocity vector that's technically a direction then and not a real velocity. But, you know, minor details. Okay, inside the player, let's see. Actions pressed, right, left, up, down, we have that defined. What other things can we define? Input map. We should add another button. We want a button that shoots. I'm going with the, let's call it shoot button. And just make it the mouse button left, I guess. Yeah, I can shoot with my left mouse button, that seems fine. Because what I'm actually gonna go for here is being able to aim with the mouse and then shoot at that. Now in the player, I guess we can make that as part of func input. If event.is action pressed. No, that's not one of the UI ones, it's just shoot. Then we shoot. So what do we need in that case? First of all, we're gonna need to create a projectile. So to do that, we can do up here, create a variable, projectile equals preload, and it's going to bring us some examples here. We're going with the projectile.tscn. TSCN basically stands for a scene file in the Godot environment. We have this down here. This is the projectile scene. If we open that, it's basically just this here, where we created the projectile. I guess we can make it red. And while we're at it, we're making the boxes not red, because that's gonna get confusing. Let's see, one of these boxes has its own color. Let's get rid of that. And then let's change the color of the other boxes to, where is it? Visibility. Ah, it's on the sprite, of course. Let's go for a brownish color. Or orange, yellow, brown, something like that. Something in that range. This way they are easy to tell apart, since I'm just using the Godot logo for everything while showing this stuff. The preload basically just makes sure that at runtime, our player knows what a projectile is and is able to create one. So now what we can do in here is do var proj, short for projectile, because we already have this one, is equal projectile dot instance. An instance, I guess as the word kinda says, is one version, one real projectile. So we have an object here, but this is just a blueprint for how to make a projectile, essentially. The scene just describes what is a projectile. This here creates the actual projectile. Now it exists and it's part of our scene. So now what we can do is get parent, I guess, dot add child projectile. Okay, now what does this do? Get parent. We're here in a tree. We are in the script on the player. This is where we are. And we are checking what the parent of the player is, which is our world, or level, or whatever we want to call it. This entire thing, that's the parent. We want to add a child to that, which means we want to add the projectile to be basically in this list. We're not gonna see that here, since it happens while the game is running. But that's what happens. The projectile is going to be the same as the player and the boxes. It's gonna exist within this space. Now, that's what the add child does, and yeah, we just pass it the variable that stores our projectile instance. Now if we do that, let's just take a look. Because I think this should already do stuff. Ah yes, it doesn't actually set the position, so it always sets it at the 0, 0, but it does spawn it up here. We are spawning it correctly. So now let's set the position. We can say proj.position equals position. So now we share the same position as the player. Since the player script is where we're doing this is our position. We're just setting it equal. And now let's see. It spawns wherever we are right now. It doesn't move yet. We're doing that next. It doesn't interact with anything either, but it will. Now these positions of different objects are just something that is already predefined. These are existing variables. We can access the same as variables we created ourselves. And the dot here basically means we want to access a function inside of something. So this here is a projectile, or rather it's a variable containing a projectile, but we treat it as if it's that projectile itself. So the dot means we want to look for something that's inside of the projectile. So projectile.position means we are taking the position of the projectile. That's basically how it works. In this case it is getParent is going to give us the parent node. Now we want to check what is the child of that parent node, so we do .addChild. Or rather we want to add it to that, so yeah. The addChild is a function that exists within the parent node itself, similar to the .x and .y we use on velocity. Now let's set a velocity to this thing. Projectile.velocity equals position.get, let's see, direction to local mouse, get local mouse position, that. So first of all, let's test it. Okay, that's not quite working. Let's make this smaller. Let's make this like 50. I want to watch what exactly is happening. I'm going to use the global positions now. Global mouse position and global position of ourselves. That way I don't have to worry about the tree, though I don't think that's what's causing this. Oh, it is. Well, okay, that was simple then. It was just an issue with the mouse being recorded in the wrong local space compared to where our objects are. So yeah, now these projectiles are moving nicely. We can still move around, and the projectiles are just being shot wherever we go. This line here, though, it does quite a few things, doesn't it? So, first, we get the global now mouse position. So it's going to check on the screen where is the mouse right now, and basically create a vector 2, the same as we are using for the velocity and movement and all that, representing that position. Then we have our own global position. That's the players. It's the same as the projectiles because we are setting it to be the same here. So again, it's going to check inside of the game world and use that position. Then we take the direction2 function, which already exists on all vector 2s. So it's going to take this position and that position and calculate which vector points from here to there. That's what this returns. So we get another vector 2, which gives us the direction essentially. That's what we set to velocity here. And then it's multiplied by speed because of course it is, otherwise we would be moving very slowly. There's still one issue here, we're not multiplying with delta. Since this here doesn't use the physics system using move and slide like we had last time, it's not gonna move at the proper speed without delta. So let's do that, and now it's gonna be really slow. Which is fine, that's what I originally set the 300 for. There, now it's faster than us. Not awfully fast, but it's moving pretty alright. Lastly, we want this to actually destroy things. For the sake of that, let us go... Yeah, I suppose we can just go into the projectile and say if it collides with anything, it should destroy that thing. A few things we're gonna want here. First of all, the projectile is spawned by the player. The player has a hitbox, but we don't want the projectile to collide with the player. So if we go here into collision on the projectile, we can just say don't interact with the first layer at all, interact with the second one. That's what we're gonna use for projectile collision. Now, what we still need, the box. The box should also interact with the player, but it should additionally also interact with the projectile. So it's going to be on both layers, the layer the player is on and the layer the projectile is on. Lastly, we need the projectile to recognize when it's colliding with anything. Now, we know that our boxes are bodies, they are rigid bodies specifically. So what we can do is we can say if a body enters our projectile, basically if we're overlapping with a body, something happens. So we go on the projectiles area to dnode, next to the inspector on node, and then we just double click on body entered. Now it's going to give us a body to work with here. This is basically a reference to whatever it is we are colliding with. So what we can do is body.q3. It's not recommending it, I'm not sure why. But q3 basically tells the engine, delete this thing as soon as it's safe to do so. Sometimes things are still being used in the physics engine or something, so it's not always a good idea to just immediately delete it. So this just makes sure, wait until it's safe and then delete it as soon as possible. Did I do anything wrong, or is this all? Ding, that's all. So it works. Our projectiles are now colliding with stuff and ignoring our player. I'm also gonna make it destroy the projectile itself. For this we can do the same thing. We can just say Q3. So basically using the same function on ourselves. Here we use it on the other body, whatever we overlap with. Here we use it on the projectile itself, since that's where we are in the script. Wrong scene again. Okay, and both disappear. Easy. So that's a few concepts for how you can spawn in things and delete things with the example of projectiles. That will be all for today. Bye.